Hey, how's it going, guys? We got another deck for you, Rampaging Gohan. Of course, we're running the whole Awakening stack here. I honestly hate this damn mastery, and I don't really like this deck at all. It's a deck that I just make purely to test against, and because I feel like playing Gohan every once in a while. But I hate this deck. I think Trunks is honestly better than Gohan. All this deck tries to do is anger and PPV, and I think they're just better decks out there that do it better, that don't stall out as much. They're just better MPs. I think even Goten, I would almost argue, is better than Gohan here. But in general, I just don't like Rampaging and PPV. I know some people do like to play it, dual victory, triple. I've even, maybe I won't spoil this deck, but there's a triple victory Rampaging deck that I think is actually pretty legit out there. If you want to know about that, just hit me up. I might actually make that myself. I'll probably end up making that myself after I scrap this here. I'll probably scrap this after this list, but there's I just have never liked this mastery. There's a few decks here and there that can use it okay, and this is one of them. And maybe it's just me as a player. Maybe it's my list. I've experimented different lists, and I'm sure there's already people that are asking where are my skip cards. Like Gut Kick and Sword Skill. I don't have them in this build. I just this deck definitely could probably use them. I definitely think Sword Skill is honestly mandatory in any especially anger Rampaging deck, and I think that should be in here. I think that would make it a lot better. Body Blow with Sword Skill, definitely really good. And it definitely gives more of a reason to run one of my choices here, Leaping Strike. But either way, this is what I have. For me, a lot of these cards I don't necessarily see moving, but I'll definitely mention the cards that I think are underperformers. So to start off, we have Block Line. We got 3 Energy Deflection. Gives you anger. Same with Arm Catch. They just generic give you anger. Same blocks kind of are shitty. They don't really do anything other than just give you anger. We have Reverse Catch. There's no other same blocks that give you anger, but this one does give you 2 endurance, which, all the other options don't give you any endurance, or they don't give you any effect. And this just gives you a skip, which skips are pretty powerful, especially with anger. We got the Triple Sphere. You could say and argue that Confro maybe be better. Generally, I feel like you don't want to clog up your actions with throwing a Confro. But especially with Orange Meditation being limit 1 now, you don't really have as much justification to run 3 Sphere. That was one of the big reasons why you'd run Sphere in these anger decks. There's a big reason why my buddy Mike Teagues would run Sphere in these anger decks. But, honestly, underperforms. Probably just going to cut it for something else. Probably. Well, I'll get to probably a mention of what I would probably recommend trading it for in a second here. But Ball 7, of course, ending combat's good. You really just want to go into combat, get off some anger, end combat. That would be ideal. Time, of course, time. 3 Severing Punch. Now, this is a card I could argue for cutting. I just think it's too good not to, cut. I think it's just, too good to cut. I think it's just so good. This card has done so much work for me every time I've ever played a Saiyan deck. Protects, it slows down other anger decks for one, like black and orange. But it also shuts off Unleashed if it hits. And it stops them from being able to ball to you. So, that's really awesome. I mean, this thing does it all. It's such a good attack. I really can't see you cutting this, but I could understand if you did for more anger. Immediate anger. Whoops. Face Strike, of course. This is kind of staple in any Rampaging deck. Again, we have to remember that every attack here, hit, give you anger. It is a May, but you are trying to get that anger. And because of Gohan, all these freestyles give you an anger too. And that's the whole appeal to running Gohan, is you get to use these freestyle cards here. But this card is one of the many 2 anger cards because of your Gohan. This gives you 3 anger even if you level with it immediately from the 2 anger. And then if it, you'll lower your anger 2 after it hits, then raise your anger 1 after you lower the anger, because this tacks on a hit effect after everything else on this text. So nobody ever wants to block this card. It's really nice to bait into like a Yamcha level 1 or an orange board block like Burning Ordrill. Really nice card, either way. Good for the anger. We have Left Kick, of course. It's physical with an anger on it, and if it hits, it gives you another anger. So, pretty standard. Flying Kick, this card's been really underwhelming. It was mostly in here because pretty much every card in here has endurance. That's dead card. Even a lot of the attacks have endurance. So what this does is it gets you a card draw. Well, with Gohan, he makes the mastery here. If you discard a card with endurance, of course, it gives you a a non-styled attack, right? Well, Gohan makes it styled, and with this card, you can pitch any card you want out of with the mastery, and the mastery, if it hits, which pretty much no one blocks it, gives you an anger. Well, you get to replace the card for free with this effect. I thought it'd be good, and on top of it, it gives you like a pseudo ruthless mastery effect, where every time you land an attack with a hit effect, you get to lower your opponent's anger. Well, every attack has a hit effect because that mastery gives them all hit effect, but this card's been really underwhelming. Rarely do I get to work, and even against Mischievous, when I've played it first, it feels, it doesn't give immediate anger. It seems like it's a good combo card, but it really isn't for the MPPV suite, I don't feel like. This is probably a much better, like, Rampaging Majin Vegeta, maybe Rampaging Broly card. Maybe Rampaging Draku card, probably, would be better with this, because at least this level 2 could consistently get this going, but this card does not do it for me. I just am not into this card at all. This would be a card I would cut. Absolutely, I would cut this card. But for now, it's what I have. This is what is in the list right now. Maybe for some people it works, I still have hope kind of for it, but, it's probably just, this deck's going to get probably scrapped anyway. But, just not really a well performer in my experience, but maybe for some people it's been working really good. In theory, it should work very well. We have Spin Kick, another immediate anger card. Lowers anger, kills an ally. I don't know. Really just there for the anger. Now, this is why you run Gohan right here. Power Punch. This card can be unstoppable. It's on the lines of face strike over here. But also, it is another 2-anger card that nobody else gets. 3-anger card if it hits. Awesome card. Super strong. And it's an AT5. Really, really good. Next we have Dev Blow, of course. This is another reason why you'd run on Gohan. It's because you get to run things like Devastating Blow. Now this gives you 2 anger, and it gives you some anger hate and some pile hate. Good, just a really good utility card. I think every Gohan deck that's running Awakening that isn't, that's the Awakening stack entirely, should be running this card. So strong. Probably my favorite card in the game again. We get up to some energies. These are kind of the last of our 3 of attacks till we move to the 2 ofs, which, if you notice, most of this deck is attacks. The idea is you're trying to just throw a lot of attacks quickly and trying to just slime some levels off. We have Ferocious Blast. This card's awesome. You pitch it to Mastery, gives you an anger. If the Mastery attack hits with Gohan, you get an anger. You pitch it to his level 2, you get an anger. This is a really good card. This card has been awesome. This card has been really, really great, and honestly, if you don't even feel like discarding it, the hit effect on it is awesome too. It protects you from things like Blue Head Knock, Orange Bicycle Kick, Future Go on level 2, just anything that lowers your anger does not lower your anger anymore. Black Trick Shot it protects you from. It's so strong. It's just so good. And, depending on the matchup is going to determine when you want to try to throw this and when you just want to pitch it. But it is so good. This is a great card. I think every Rampaging deck that does anger should be running this card. Well, I shouldn't say everything, but a lot of Rampaging decks should really be running that card. Burst, you'll see a lot of these cards have just ridiculous endurance. Like the last 2 had 3 endurance, 2 endurance, 1 endurance, 1 endurance, 2 endurance, 2 endurance on all of our blocks, which is another reason why we run the blocks that we do, is because we can always pitch them to Mastery if they're in a dead matchup where they do nothing, pitch them to Mastery. If the Mastery hits, at least get an anger off them no matter what. But this card, super strong fancy card. I love this card. It's just good, and it's just so good. It's so good. You know, can be a 2-anger, big anti-anger card. You know, really, really awesome. Can put another card back in your deck for later. And Rage Blast, again, another benefit of running Gohan, is this now is a 3-anger card. This is an old set 1 card that nobody pretty much runs ever anymore, but Rampaging is one of the few places I can see it being ran still. You know, it's still a great card. I loved seeing this card, so I've always liked this card. It's always been a fun card. 2 blending energy move. You know, dipping out of combat's good. And you know, honestly, I think again, I've mentioned sword skill, and also gut kick. Another reason to probably, you know, run them is because I have blinding. You know, and it's really good if you can enter combat, throw an attack. They throw an attack at you, you block, and then you end combat. You've just netted like 2-3 anger, you know, for free. Maybe even 4 if you throw in the 2 anger attacks out. And then if they say it gives you an anger, just like an extra way to cheese out anger. It's really nice. We have 2 Leaping Strike. You know, this is a card that is purely in here for the wall breaker. As you can see, I do not run Sane Rapid Fire. Another reason to run Sword Skill is because of this card. Because you can throw this at the end of the Sword Strike. The Sword Skill. Oh my god, I'm getting so mixed up. I have so many sword cards that I've been playing, but this end of the Sword Skill skips. You can banish with this, and if it hits, you draw a card. You know, really, really awesome combo with that. That is another reason. You know, those are another reason to kind of run that card, and why a lot of people do. But I have it too because it does nothing in this deck for the most part, other than if someone plays an attached card on me. Not a lot of people play wall breaking anymore, but you need to have the answer for it, because if you don't, you're going to get screwed and you're going to lose. Dash and Punch, again, skipping is awesome, gives you an immediate anger. This can give you 2 anger because Gohan. Super awesome. And you can kind of play, it's an anti-anger, you know, for other decks. And that is, I think, Gohan's biggest strength, is that he can choose out some extra anger with his freestyle cards, and then he has the anti-anger kind of good options because of Devlo and Shoulder Slam here, which we run at 2. This could always see a 3. Really, you don't really care about the damage on it. It's just 2 anger card that lowers anger, you know. And that's the thing. Everything in this deck, other than, you know, the Flying Kick, the Sleeping Strike, which I hate this card, but you got to run it, and I guess these 2 here, the Severing and the Ferocious Blast, all are like 2 anger attacks. And all of our blocks can be turned into an anger attack. So, you know, as far as out of these attack line, this is really where I would make cuts from. I would even honestly consider just cutting Sphere entirely. I'm really, really close to it. I just don't care, especially with VTP not around anymore and time not being able to be looped forever, unless you're Supreme Kai. You don't really need it. Meditation being limit 1, you don't really need Sphere. I could honestly see cutting 3 Sphere and cutting these Flying Kick, and I would turn them into 3 Body Blow and 3 Sword Skill. That would be my one change if I was going to do the change. I'd probably still keep Leaping Kick at 2, honestly. I could see you cutting Severing down to 2. Just kind of depends on how scared you are of Unleash decks or getting Ball 2'd. It's like, I think that's really just going to be meta dependent. I would at least keep it as a 2, but you could cut it entirely. And if you're going to cut it entirely, I would slot in maybe like a 3rd Shoulder Slam. That would be maybe my add. But those are kind of the real changes that I would do. Otherwise, I think the package obviously is pretty much the core anger package. But those are the cards that could fluctuate. You know, Rapid Fire, you could add Rapid Fire in here as an answer for Wall Breaker, but it doesn't really synergize well with Sword Skill. But you can still run them both. It doesn't mean that you can't run them together. It's like it's kind of the same philosophy of people that run like Final Flash in events in a deck, or Red Restriction in events in their deck, you know, like Stare Down. You can, just because you have them in the deck doesn't mean that they're gonna hurt each other necessarily. It depends on how you draw them and what order you sequence. So, but just things to consider, I suppose. All those cards are kind of on the line, but if I was really going to do this, I would just probably try the Sword Skill and see how that went. I've done it before in anger decks. It's kind of cheesy. No matter what, Rampaging anger is really cheesy. But the biggest thing is I think Sword Skill would help you close out a lot easier on the final levels. If you can get it, it'll help you kind of chain up a lot easier. But it also will, the biggest thing for me is with Rampaging decks, they always get like caught up on their 3 and their 4, it feels like. Or they either get stuck on their 1 by like a wall breaker, or they get caught up on their 3 or 4 because they can't get enough anger. And that's another reason why I think Trunks is better. I think Trunks doesn't have as much anger per se on like the 2 and the, even argue the 3. I would say, well, I wouldn't even argue the 3, but the 2, it doesn't give as much anger, but he does fly off 1 very, very easily. You can literally play 1 card. You can play a face strike and get an auto level, So maybe that is, again, I think Trunks is probably better, but, that is like, a reason to run Trunks. And his level 3 can tutor you 2 anger cards, immediate 2 anger cards, so. But as far as Gohan goes, I think he does still have potential. I mean, he does have the board clear for level 3, which is nice. He does kill allies, which is nice. He does just filter his hand on 2, which is super strong, which I think was better than Trunks' 2 for this deck, for an anger deck. But that's me. And I just think the little synergies with the Death Blow and the Shoulder Slam are pretty good still. Dashing Punch, Blinding. They have their benefits. Again, maybe I'm just playing him wrong. Maybe every deck that I test against just runs a million blocks, and I can never get these kind of cheesy decks to work. But, I really think it would do much better with Sword Strike, at least, or Sword Skill rather. It would just be a good, maybe swap up. But maybe, you're like me, and either way, these decks just don't work for you. But we'll get to the final bit of the deck I've been ranting on forever. So, of course, 1 pregame. This card would be awesome to earn more than 1, but, still a really good card. Helps really, really synergize as well with your combat ending cards. Tactical Drill. This is a card I asked on Retro about. Just to double check that this works how it isn't. Oh, I was hoping it to. And, you pitch this for Mastery. And, you get it replaced. You still got the attack for the Mastery. And if it hits, it's like a 1-stage physical. If you discard this and then you banish it instead, your Mastery will just do 1 stage because it doesn't have a card that actually got discarded, checks for that. But, if it's kind of in the same vein as like discarding, for Flying Kick, that you're just going to turn a card in for an extra action for an anger. It's pretty good. You can discard this for level 2 and you get a second card. That was what I was really asking Retro about, was like you discard this and you banish it, because Gohan is all 1 sentence on his level 2 for the search. You would get to go search out a card by discarding this out of your hand, and you banish it instead, and then you get to draw a card right after you search. So this turns into 2 cards on your level 2. Super, super strong. I would love to run it at 3, but space is kind of a thing. But it's also nice if you're on like a defensive matchup. You can always drop this on the board if on a pass just to kind of hold it, and then you enter combat just to activate it. It's physical attack. And you either bait out like a Burning Aura Drill, or you just literally just do it and you get a free anger off it. And, if you're at 3 anger, 2-3 anger, your opponent's really got to think about if they're going to let it hit. So I think it's pretty good, especially with Gohan. Very, very good. Very good ad. We got 2 Saint Discovery, again. Just like, what's great is just like your pregame and your Inspection Drill, these cards all have Endurance on them, so you can pitch them all to your Mastery. They're always going to be live and be able to turn into at least an anger. Maybe even multiple if you're Tactical Drill. But, this card's really good. It kind of doesn't play into your combat ending here, but, it draws you a card, which is really good. And you get to see your opponent's hand, so it lets you sequence a little bit better. Either way, I think it's still worth running. Maybe, for some people this would be a card where maybe instead of running this, you run Inspection Drill at 3rd, and then this leaves you another slot open for something else over here, or maybe a different board card entirely. I think it's still worth running this card though. It's definitely a good card. And then we have the 3 Saiyan Enraged. I think you have to run this card no matter what. It gives you 2 anger, half a level in this Mastery. Getting these at like the end of a game, really, really helpful. Really, really helpful getting over the hump. So that's the biggest thing. I say the hump. The hump with Rampaging decks is really closing out on the level 3 and 4, because at that point you've kind of generally blown through a lot of your cards. Maybe you cheesed your way up there really early, but then it's time for your opponent to kind of actually draw into their answers for you. And that's like where like these board cards are really helpful to help you get up there. But also I think that's where the sword skills would be really helpful with the body blow. And body blow is literally in there just to get you the sword skill, because if body blow hits with sword skill right after you attach it with the immediate effect, you're immediately going to skip your opponent. And if you were at an anger before that, you have all these 2 anger cards that will immediately just let you skip them. You skip through their action, you immediately get a level without them even interacting. And that can go on for multiple actions. That can go on for entire combats, matter of fact, and that's one of the reasons why Oppressive was so, and is still pretty powerful with the right deck. It's just like you combo that with combat ending. So good. And that's another reason I think Trunks is better, is because he also has Trunks Slam, which is another combat ender. And the other combat enders are really only good if you're an Oppressive, as in like Shattering Leap. Or that is really the only like other combat ender, but I mean, I could even see like a Rampaging Vegeta, Hero Vegeta, but not really. Not really. But maybe something's there. But there are a few other cards, to consider too. This is one right here. Point Blank Volley. This was a card that I used to see a lot more, and I see this sometimes now, but really, this card's only really good if you're taking life card damage, not stage damage. And I'm just really rarely ever taking life card damage. I do have this in 13, because 13 consistently can level better, in my opinion. But this card could make it. It sucks that you can't discard this card to your mastery in freestyle. Every other freestyle card we have here other than Rage Blast, you can pretty much always play, because it doesn't have a stage cost other than Rage Blast. But in Rage Blast also is 2 anger, so I'm gonna pretty much, I'm willing to sacrifice having stages for it to hold on to it if I have to. But Point Blank Volley is something that you can maybe work in. But really, I think it needs the sword skill and the body blow. But even then, I still think Trunks is better. Now, I can get to 4 pretty often in this deck, and 3. 3 is really awesome to be on, but it always feels like you fly off 3, and then you just get stuck on 4. That could be part of my sequencing at the same time. When you're getting entered on by aggressive decks, getting anger to reset your stages so you're not getting, the hell beat out of you is kind of what you just gotta do sometimes. But, I think definitely you need the skips in there. I mean, I really should have maybe put them in, but I really don't like this deck that much. Honestly, I've never really liked Rampaging, but that would be maybe a change I would do. But hey, if you're like me, that just doesn't really matter. This is a list you can try, and I think it's even without the sword skills, I think it's worth testing against. Being able to know how you can deal with a matchup like this, if you can, it really makes you respect blocks when you run against Rampaging decks like this, because this can still win. And it's not like I lose all the time on this deck. It's just like I know how to beat this deck, and it has a very clear weakness, and that's it's got to hit. So, hopefully this kind of gives you an idea, and if you didn't already know, which I'm sure most people who are watching these videos already know how these decks work, but maybe this gives you an idea. Maybe my feedback on Flying Kick means nothing to you. Maybe my feedback on these skip cards means nothing to you. Maybe, you were looking at this deck. Hopefully I can steer you away from Gohan, but I think Gohan still has his benefits. Maybe I'm just playing him wrong. But this has been my Rampaging Gohan deck, and hopefully you all enjoyed this. Appreciate the watch.